Alright, so for the pizza crust mix, we're going to start with some water. That's 105 degrees-ish. Between 100 and 110 is good. And that's 1 cup water. We're going to add the yeast mix to it. We're going to stir it until it's all blended in for the most part. Alright, so you can see that the yeast is nicely activated now in the warm water. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add this pizza crust mix to the mixer bowl of our stand mixer. Alright, there we go. We're going to give it just a quick whisk just to make sure all distribute it evenly. Make it a little well in the middle if you want. And then we're going to add the yeast mix. We're going to add 1 tablespoon apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons oil, I used olive oil, and another 1.5 cups of warm water. In the stand mixer. We're going to use the paddle attachment to mix it all together. There we go. It's going to be really liquidy at first, but it's going to start to thicken in a minute or two. Alright, we're going to stop to just scrape the sides of the bowl down just to make sure all the flour is off the sides. Bottom. All right. Just keep mixing. Okay, so the dough has thickened a little bit already, and as we let it proof for about an hour now, 45 minutes to an hour, see it'll thicken quite a bit more so that we can actually shape it like real pizza dough. I covered it with plastic wrap. Then you're going to put it in a nice warm area to rise. It should just about double in volume. Okay, so this dough has been rising for just over an hour. I accidentally left it a little longer, but that's okay. So we're going to put it out on a floured surface. We're going to cut it in half. This is going to make 2 pizzas that are about 12 inches big. Or you could make smaller ones and make 3. That's okay too. There we go. Look at that. Nice and firm. Alrighty. You can use any gluten-free flour, brown rice flour. This happens to be millet flour. It really doesn't matter. Just something that keeps it from sticking. Cut it roughly in half, whatever that looks like. And then we're going to shape both of these halves into a ball. You're going to let them rest for about a half hour. Look at that one, is a little smaller, but that's okay. You're going to let them rest for about a half hour. In the meantime, you can prepare your toppings, and then we're good to go. So these dough balls have rested for a while now, so we can shape them into our pizza. We're gonna shape them into 12-inch pizzas, but again, you can make them bigger or smaller depending on your preference. So you're basically just gonna start in the middle, and you're gonna press them outward as you go until you get to the size that you're happy with. It's also a really nice dough to work with, so if you want, you can kind of gently stretch it as if it was real pizza dough, but I just like to keep it on the work surface and just kind of work my way outward. And don't be afraid to go quite thin in the center. It does puff up a little bit during baking, so I've already turned the oven on to 475 with the baking pan in it, the baking sheet in it to preheat. This way the crust gets heat from the bottom as well right away, and it helps it crisp up a little better. Any cracks or whatever that you have, just pinch them back together. It should be pretty forgiving. Here's your 12-inch pizza. Alright. Now we're going to right away brush it with, or top it with tomato sauce. So just get your favorite pizza sauce, whatever that would be. Close to the edge anyway. Alright, and then we're going to brush the crust with a little bit of olive oil just to help it brown better, otherwise it kind of stays white. This can rest a bit while we wait for the oven to finish preheating. Alright, so the oven is preheated to 475 and we are ready to stick this pizza into the oven onto the preheated baking sheet. You can use a pizza pan, whatever you have, just make sure it fits a 12-inch pizza. And then we're going to bake it for about 10 to 15 minutes and we'll come back and show you what it looks like. Alright, so the crust is finished baking. We had it in for 15 minutes. Now it's ready for the toppings, and then we're going to stick it back in the oven just to cook the toppings. So you can put on whatever you want, really. We like to kind of go all out and put all sorts of stuff on. If you're putting meat on your pizza, make sure it's all gluten-free. Sometimes the sausage or pepperoni has gluten in it, so just double check the label. Ready to go back in. I would suggest anywhere between 7 to 15 minutes depending how crispy you like it and depending on how hot your oven runs. Some ovens are hotter than others, so it's ready to go back in and we'll show you what the final product looks like. Okay, here we have our finished pizza. I just let it rest for a few minutes after it was done baking, but it's ready to go. So check out, the crust is nice and sturdy. Because it got that heat from underneath from the hot baking pan, and I'll show you what it looks like once we cut it open. Here you got a nice crispy crust on the bottom, air bubbles in the crust, and not too dry on top because we baked it with the tomato sauce first. That kept it from drying out, so yeah, it's very, very close to the real deal. I think your gluten-loving friends would enjoy this too. And there you have it, gluten-free pizza.